brings up a topic of the evil and unjust practice of usury, which is not only condemned by sacred scripture and sacred tradition, but is also against the natural law itself. Let's consider an example. A member of the working class, the working poor, borrows $300 from modern-day Shylock firm, also known as payday lenders. After only 6 months, major fees accrue until the person ends up paying the usurious company $1,200 of wealth for the borrowing and using of only $300. Stories like this are actually very common in our present economic system, especially with the notion of what is called compound interest, which can increase profits and gain for usurers. Simple interest, for example, is only based on the principal amount of the loan, while compound interest is based on the principal amount of the loan and the accumulated interest on top of that. The act of declaring that somehow this interest is part of the initial loan itself is called compounding. Quick example. If you borrowed $2 at the time of Christ's birth at a 3% annual interest rate, after 2,000 years today, you would end up owing $122 in interest. But calculating the exact same figures using compound interest, however, brings far higher results. Again, borrowing $2 at the time of Christ's birth with a 3% annual interest rate, but this time compounded. After a period of just 1,000 years, there would be $20 trillion in interest owed. That's a lot of mammon. Consider this observation made by an economist. If the U.S. economy grows on average between 1.5% and 2% each year, which seems to be the average lately, and the interest that lenders charge even to governments is higher, say 3 or 4%, it is a mathematical fact that the wealth of those who lend money will make them much wealthier than society as a whole. And since lenders are typically of the wealthy class as opposed to the poor, usury always guarantees that the rich will always get richer and the poor will always get poorer. Because usury concentrates wealth into the hands of a few to the point that many have little or nothing, and so a welfare state has to be instituted to assist the poor. In other words, those in need of wealth, the poor, are required through usury to transfer the little funds they have to those with the greatest wealth, the usurers. And furthermore, usury often diverts real investment, which is good, away from productive activities such as manufacturing and farming, because various moneylenders can more easily gain greater wealth using usury, issuing non-productive loans where profit and gain is made on the loan itself. Now, the Church's teaching, which is rarely spoken of today, the Church's teaching against usury has been infallibly defined and confirmed over and over again, but especially in the papal letter by Pope Benedict XIV, known as Vix Pervenit. In that papal encyclical, the Pope stated, quote, "The nature of the sin called usury has its proper place and its origin in a loan contract, which demands by its very nature that one return to another only as much as he has received." The Pope continues, "The sin rests on the fact that sometimes the creditor, the lender, desires more than he is given. But any gain which exceeds the amount he gave is illicit, illegal, and usurious," unquote. The lender always has the right to be made whole, to be compensated for the services and also the effects of inflation. But he is not allowed to take a direct profit or gain upon the loan itself. As the Church's influence on economic matters in the world has waned, the volatility in the economy has grown. We see over the decades massive upswings and booms, inevitably followed by massive downswings, recessions, and depressions. Usury is always the main cause of any economic collapse. Usury is the root cause of business cycles, of rapid expansion followed by rapid contraction, of bull and bear markets, and always usury guarantees the concentration of wealth and mammon into the hands of just a few. Usury is the cause of countries, including our own, unable to make payment on their debt. Just catch this for a moment and think. Since 1950, the United States federal government has paid more than $10 trillion in interest using 2017 value of money. $10 trillion in interest alone in just a few decades. It is compound interest that has bankrupted nearly every developed nation in the world and also impoverished nations. Making usury illegal would virtually eliminate all of these evils and would guarantee a wider distribution of ownership in society. The debt would be 1/3 of its present amount if there were not usury. And furthermore, without usury, money could be used in more productive ways as investment and could produce a just profit. Only when Shylocks are once again despised as they once were, and unjust interest and profit are taken out of the lending process, will sanity and justice return to the field of lending and borrowing.